Alright, item 7, the control circuit explanatory notes and schematics. A. The supply motor generator which produces the current of 120 volts feeds it through. B, which is 100 amp per fuse on the positive wire. Control circuit is now routed that the group of miniature circuit breaker is marked C. The control current and the output is marked output through B will operate the fitting of the not shown call for the battery relay but reverse current relay generator automatic switch. The battery relay will in turn close the battery contactor to mark D. The supply current will be E, and the desk control key F. Control key F will now feed the current of the group of the miniature circuit breakers marked G on the outside of the control key of the circuit breaker H, as well as feeding through the E connections the control available to the group of the miniature circuit breakers marked N. The battery double the pole switch of K is closed for the current feed available to the Viva 100 ampere fuse marked L and N. To charge the nest of the storage batteries marked J, the equipment marked P of the battery ionometer. This important device readily indicates the batteries are being charged or discharged. With no output, the supply motor generator A battery connector D will open and the batteries J will provide limited time control circuit as far as now, but not through battery contactor D, which is limited time battery circuit. It will be seen simplified schematic. All the miniature circuit breakers are marked M will be fed. Alright, here's your ammeter with a fuse, the battery and the real voltage fuse, battery negative fuse, battery legislation switch, also a closed switch open double rheostat or supply main gate. You have these open closed switches, number 1, 2 head motor, number 1 head light marker, number cab high tension compartment lights, quarter lights, and then you have another path which breaks down into which goes from the battery connector, the electrical connector main, to the key switches, which have opening and lockings, to the pantos down, number 1 and 2 compressors, locomotive brake cylinder, pantos up, control circuits, then back again to the other side of the cab. Number 2 cab window heaters, number 1 and 2 cab hot plate and excite main generator control. Then it goes from the battery generator around the backside of the outside of the circuit. Runs a generation fuse with a voltage regulator with a supply generator at 120 volts, positive and negative voltage. Unless the supply generator is producing current with the group of the miniature of the circuit breakers marked C, you cannot be fed them with the E closed with the separate generator A running the producing current with the batteries J connected with the K. The group E and H available the control keys must be, and the 2 fed with the group of the control breakers marked G. The extended control lines marked R are those which extend to the jumper couplers and multiple unit working. If supply generator A or the 100 ampere fuse B should fail, the reverse current relay will open and disconnect the battery connector D. Failure of fuses L and N would cause the failure of the battery circuit. The failure of the fuses B and L and N would cause the battery charging to cease. The battery charging ammeter is low tension cabinet number 2, which should never be show discharge, and the battery connector should be closed. If the ammeter show the discharge and the battery connector is closed, then inform the driver immediately. The indications show the battery charge is not occurring. The locomotive may be operated only for the limited period before the total failure of the control circuits. Alright, indication of depleted batteries on these locomotives usually by the dimness of the cab lights and can often be detected during the preparation of the locomotive. If the cab lights are not bright before the supply of the generator starts, the initial charging of the rate is about 30 amperes. That will indicate low batteries. If the batteries are high, the charging should be between 2 and 10 amps. Where the cab lights are observed being with unduly dim, with it fed from the batteries along with the supply motor generator now started up upon the low charging rate indicated by the battery ammeter. The condition of the battery is suspect. Under the circumstances, do not switch the off of the supply generator before the arrival of the destination. The battery ammeter is under all circumstances best indicated by the condition of the batteries. In some cases, is very low batteries is possible for a charge of 50 amperes to be indicated, but this charge should be not maintained for more than 10 minutes. And this period should fall to approximately 10 amps. Ensure the charging rate be maintained at 50 amperes over 10 minutes. The battery double pole switch should be open and the batteries taken out with the charging circuit. If any of the inspection of the battery contactor is made with the time and it does not lift the arc chute covering the contactor while the generator is running, during the course of the preparation of the inspection battery ammeter but the generator is running, compare with the charging rate with the conditions given previously before the switching off the supply generator. Take inspection. Do not run the locomotive with the generator switch off. Remember that if the batteries are depleted badly, the generator switch of the locomotive will be failure. Alright, item 8. Pantograph and pantograph control. Pantograph provides the means of connecting the overhead line and voltage, disconnecting it from the locomotive. Raising and lowering the pantograph must never be done whilst in any current with it being drawn. Current is being drawn with either the throttle isn't open in any of the four auxiliary high tension machines are running. During the light engine running of the rear pantograph only is employed. During all the train working, pantographs are to be employed. If only the pantograph is employed with the train working, all the machines may adequately be fed with reserve. The sparking would take the current withdrawal was heavy. However, between the West Med and the points of the east, there are two or more locomotives that are attached. Only one of the pantographs is employed on each locomotive. The exemption is due to the lighter nature of the overhead wire. The yellow symbol in the back center means the stopping insertion of the route is intended. The wire, the red stop, means the stop and lower to isolate all pantographs. And the 46 class of locomotives is required to hold by beyond the point. Failure to observe the simple rules will cause a series of damage to the pantograph. Pantograph raising and lower reactions are visually inspected with the fireman observer with a report to the driver before entering high-tension compartment, as well as the separate operating of the lower and isolating pantograph mechanisms, essentially to observe that the pantographs have been folded down. It's quite possible for the pantographs to remain in contact with the overhead wire after lowering the magnet valves have been operated due to the stiffness of the pantograph details. Alright, this shows the pantograph raising and lowering magnet valves, high tension door interlock, the number 1 fan motor, number 2 rest, and the control compartment pantographic valves number 2, 1 and 2 end, number 2 end, number 1 end. Your pantographic air control. The illustration of three-way cocks. Pantographic control of a reserve from the main reserve. Three-way cock, horizontal service position when the main reserves have been charged. You see your cocks at the main pantographic control reserve. The three-way cock at the horizontal service where the main reserve have been charged. Following around to the pantographic magnetic valves. Alright, your illustration of three-way cock. You have your, from the main reserve pressure reducing valve, inlet isolating valve, cock. Pantographic reserve, three-way cock down, charging position, storage reserves, the storage marine valve, and storage reservoir. Alright, illustration of three-way cock. Alright, pantographic isolation, pantographic magnet valve, pantographic magnet valve, pantographic isolating cock, three-way cock up with the pantographic racing position, storage reserve, and hand pump marine valve. To provide two separate sources of air from the pantographic raising, the air from the pantographic control reserve routed with the storage reserve of the trapped in the marine valve. Later also trapped in the pantographic control the reserve and the closing inlet and outlet isolation cocks. To raise the pantographic, it is necessary to have the supply with the compressed air and the route to have the pantographic cylinder on the roof. To lower the pantographic, it is necessary to prevent the all airflow with the roof of the cylinder and its discharge already at present. These actions may be made by hand-made manipulation armature plated with the pantographic magnetic valve. This method is used with the flat fault existing in the raising and lowering buttons for the cab desk panel. To raise pantographic remote cab and desk buttons control, it is necessary that the control current is present with a control key with a V with the battery switch. For the lower pantographic remote cab desk buttons with control, it is not necessary to have the control key switch on the battery. Current must be switched on. Alright, item 8. Pantographic control. There are two types of pantographic magnet valves. Each magnet valve refers to the raising, lowering, and one pantographic number 1 and pantographic number 2 and pantographic. Each magnet valve conform with the description contained within item 5 of the two solenoid coils. When the disc raising button switch is pressed and the control current will flow with the raising solenoid, the solenoid now being the temporary magnet will attract the vertical armature plate, which will then allow the horizontal plate to fall down. When the latter armature plate falls down, it permits the air valve to open the route of the pantographic to control the reserve air pressure of the pantographic root cylinder. The piston of the pantographic root cylinder now forced on the full stroke releases the pawl with the determined through raising spring with the exert the force of the pantographic, unfolding it and forcing it into the contact overhead high tension wire with the spring pressure about 828 psi. When the disc lowering button switch is pressed, the raising solenoid is de-energized. Lowering the solenoid is energized. The vertical raising armature is released, and the horizontal lower armaturing plate is retracted. When the lowering armature plate is thus retracted, then engage the air valve cuts off the pantograph control reservoir airflow with the discharge air of the pantographic roof cylinder. Pantographic lowering springs now taking the charge, causing the pantograph to break away from the high tension overhead wire roll and fold down. It's necessary to have a control current through the desk control key with the pantographic raising of the desk buttons. Pantographic three-way control air cock must be placed horizontal to the route air through the pantographic control reservoir to the pantographic roof cylinder. It must be placed vertically upward to the route air through the storage reserve of the emergency hand pump. In both cases, all the pantographic isolating cocks should be open. They are located immediately above the magnetic valve of the desk button. Switch is valve to the exercise of either the raising or lowering solenoids to the magnetic valve of the armature plates may be hand operated. This high tension main switch is closed, locked on the reverser key. The air cannot be enrouted to the pantographic roof cylinder. Any air contained with the roof cylinder is vented when the main high tension switch is unlocked. In multiple unit working, the control current is operated with the pantograph at the front locomotive. Also view the jumper cable to cause the similar interaction to the rear locomotive. Alright, item 9. Air hoses on the Class 46 class locomotive. Their employment and spare hose equipment to be carried and the location of the air hose and used. On the driver's side of the locomotive, each of the end of the 1-inch head brake pipe, the type of the air hose, and dummy coupling. On the fireman's side, each end of the 3/4-inch head main reserve air hose, dummy coupler. Note that these two air hoses are not interchangeable. One on the driver's side, each of the end of the connection between the car body and the bogie frame. One sand circuit intermediate with the air hose, and one brake pipe intermediate with the air hose. One fireman's side at each of the end of the connection between the car body bogie frame, one main reserve, one brake cylinder, one sand gear, intermediate type air hose. The intermediate type air hose is referred to as the flexible air hose, as they connect the two mobile portions of the car body to the bogie frame. The two flexible air hoses on the roof of the 46 class locomotive convey air for the operation of the pantographic pistons. The two 1.5-inch type B air hoses, which are used in multiple unit working to connect across the number 3 and number 4 independent brake pipe, are carried one in the east corridor, number 2 end of the locomotive. Spare hoses carried in an equipment box. Their wayside replacement purposes are one main reserve type and N-type air hose, one brake pipe N-type air hose, one flexible intermittent type medium reserve air hose, one flexible intermediate type brake cylinder air hose, one intermediate type sand circuit air hose. It should always be remembered that the spare main reserve brake pipe air hose is conventionally located on the connected end of the locomotive. No spare replacement flexible hoses for the pantographics are carried. Alright, notice of replacement. Two flexible air hoses on the roof may be separately isolated should they be burst from the clothing. The applicable isolation cock with the machinery compartment. The air pressure in the pantographic control reserve will readily indicate isolating with a defective hose. It should not be overlooked that the pantographic control reserve is greatly excess of 70 psi. This pressure may be caused by the burst hose that shall exceed pressure that caused the burst hose that should adjust the pressure in the pantographic control of the reserve to 70 psi at the pressure reducing valve. During the train working, the flow meter indicates the burst air hose. A. The first association of the two intermediate one-end brake pipe hose on the locomotive are not involved. B. The carrying of the correct spare hose and tool along with the train until the burst of the hose is located. And D. When any of the interference with the brake pipe is necessary, take the special care that both relevant air cocks have been fully opened. Alright, item 10. Automatic alarm safeguards. Open under the setting of the 4 devices on the 46 class locomotive. There are line switch indicator lamp, the motor generator, the resistant fan lamp, the wheel slip relay buzzer and lamp, the Westinghouse brake flow meter and indicator. A. The line switch lamp, the red lamp, it will flicker momentarily in normal function when the throttle is moved from off to the notch 1. If the line switch is closed, the correct high tension current feeds to the traction motor. Or due to default, one bank of the motors have been isolated, the line switch lamp will no longer be in circuit. If the whistle of the throttle if the whistle of the throttle is open, any of the fault develops the high tension current. It's high tension circuit with a 1/4 protective relay with intervening automatically upon the line switches on fault with the cutting of the off the current flow with the traction motor. The red lamp will shine continuously to warn the driver of the occurrence. Since the line switch of the air is electro-pneumatic type, of the failure of the control circuit of the control air pressure would cause the opening of the fault. Again, the red lamp will shine in the warning of when the regenerated brake level is made. With the brake fielding of the red lamp will shine is ordinarily event until the throttle is open. And then there's a large 46 schematic arrangement air brake system, 2 air compressors, your double cut duplex gauge, flow meter indicator, windshield wipers, horns, Main air reserve cocks. Sand indicators are typical. Check out my sway. It shows the main starting resistance. Resistant fan motors. See the fan motor. Or resistant fan motor, you have your lamp, your master control, labyrinth valve, magnet valve K, pedal gaffer control reserve. See the main reserve time delay, main reserve, 70 psi fan motor, rheostat fan control motor and time delay sequences, fan even motor generator, resistant fans, 4 motors. Alright, let me back out of this. Resistant fan miniature circuit breaker fan delays, time delay reserve. Alright, the motor generator resistant fan lamp is yellow at all times. The control circuit is available through the desk control key. If the supply motor of the generator is running, the yellow lamp will shine continuously, warning the crew that neither the supply of the motor generator nor the exciter motor generator is running. Therefore, the battery charging is not taking place. If the battery charge is being bled away and the traction motor is not taking place. When the throttle is open until it is positioned in notch 20, the high tension current flowing with the traction motor is being routed through all and some of the 19 main starting resistance in order to graduate the starting effect. The resistant units of the housing, either the housing tension compartment immediately, high tension compartment immediately behind the fireman's observer station. These resistance and units producing the heat after the 1 minute required forcing ventilation. Below each of the resistant compartment, 4 powerful resistance or rheostat fans are located. Each has its own inbuilt motor. One of the minute after the high tension current is feeding through the resistant, these 8 fan motors should start fans running in the final 8 resistance. If all and any of these fans fail to run, the throttle has not reached the notch 20 yellow lamp will shine to warn the crew. The principal cause of the resistant fan failure are supply motor generator, exciter motor generator not running, resistant fan thermal circuit breakers or trip. Simple effective test of the resistant fan is start up the supply motor generator, turn it off, then turn the desk control key on. This then place the throttle in the resistant notch 1 through 19. After 1 minute, the yellow lamp will go out with all the resistant fans started up. Some of the cause of the rheostat of the failures are supply motor generator running, supply generator is running out, but at 100 amp fuse is burning out. The exciter motor generator is supplied with the current which drives the fan motor. The exciter motor generator will not run unless the supply motor generator is running, producing current through the 100 amp fuse. Then electro-pneumatic switch hole housed in the machinery compartment is used to connect the current and disconnect the 8 rheostat fan motors. Pressure of the air switch is 60 psi is required to close the connecting the switch. The 60 psi air pressure fed to the time delay reserve for the purpose of the pantographic control reserve so that the P&C reserve is isolated, does not contain sufficient pressure, or the time delay reserve isolated with the electro-pneumatic switch but not connect the rheostat fan currently. Housed in 2 separate cabinets, the machinery compartment is total 8 thermal type circuits. The control drive of the 8 rheostat fan and motor fans pair well with these. If one of the all circuit breakers trip under the current load, those rheostat fans will start. Yellow lamp will shine. Wheel slip relay equipped in 46 class locomotives if the purpose of warning the driver of the slip if the motor and sliding of the regenerated braking if any of the locomotive wheels. When the wheel adhesion to the rail is correct, the similar volume of the current is divided with each traction motor, which is pinioned on the related locomotive axle. With any of the slips, the armature of the traction motor has been rotated faster. Therefore, the differential of the current, therefore, between the gripping and the slipping of the wheel. If the ignition brings the wheel slip relay to life, this relay feeds the control circuit to operate with the wheel slip buzzer and pilot lamp. The control current with the operating of the buzzer lamp is routed through the locomotives and sand miniature circuit breaker number 5. Experimentally, another relay has been equipped with an engine 4625, which comes to life at any time of the master control. So accelerating handle is in position at notch 1. Again, control current will feed the wheel as a slip buzzer and pilot lamp. The arrangement is intended the warning of the current is being fed through the resistance with such instance, but the driver cannot erroneously return the throttle into 1 notch, with which intended with the shut off The Westing air brake flow meter indicated the device of the important function of the working for the crew of the brake pipe pressure of the being interfered with the outside of the operation of the drive. Otherwise, descriptive word, therefore, the flow indicator will warn guarding passenger emergency air cocks open with the brake pipe air pressure on the hose connection with a leaking of the burst through the train and become divided. The flow indicator will function only if the driver's automatic valve of the handle is running. Position brake valve isolating cock open. The warning of any irregularity brake pipe pressure above mentioned conditions will be made with the insistent below the warning airflow of the major pipe of the vent port. Points of the flow indicator will widely separate the remaining at the indication until the brake pipe pressure has been restored. Alright, blank, 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 blank. And that completes the reading of your Department of Railways North South Wales Mechanicals Branch 46 Electrical Locomotive General Working Instruction for Fireman Observers by Authority. F.P. Hard, Chief Mechanical Engineer, July 1958.